Hi, Connie.
We get to sit.
Yeah, we're at the big
We're
kid
at the
table now. Yeah. So behave. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order. It's 5:32. Go ahead if everyone can rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Seated. I will entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda as posted.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, so this meeting is to discuss the negotiated agreement and proposed package that was provided to us. Okay. What I do want to clarify, because I just found this out by asking questions, and I don't know if everybody else was aware of this, when we were talking about the 4% COLA that the agreement is proposing, it's already in the matrix. I thought that was the base salary that we were building off of, and what my question was when you've got people going over, sliding down, and this and that. I guess each stepping down is a 1.5% increase just from
1.8.
or 1.8. Thank you for the longevity within the district. But then the 4% is already in there, so you've got basically a 5.8% increase that's occurring.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know if anybody else understood that, because I didn't. I was thinking this was the base pay and then we're building off of that. What we're doing is we've already got the 4% built in there, plus the 1.8 going down the line. And stepping over is a different percentage, but I was just trying to figure out, wait, so what are we doing with our employees? You know, if this is our base, and now we're giving them 4%, and then next year they come back, and I was confusing myself. So Brooke cleared it all up, and I didn't know if everybody else understood that as well. Because we know I have lots of questions, and I don't always understand everything, so thought I'd share with the class. So,
Thank you for that.
you're welcome. Moving into the negotiated agreement. I have to do this. I guess we'll just open the floor up for discussion. One thing that I do want to, I don't like this. My comments aren't there anymore, just so now we have to bear with me. Yeah, it happens. We do need to make sure the agreement says activities director, not athletic director. And I found athletic director in there one time, so you all did a really good job, but it's still floating around in there, so if we could just make that correction, that's an easy fix.
I'll just go do that right now.
You're amazing. Thank you, Brooke. Looks like we are benefiting the insurance program, is that correct? We're explaining the change in the benefits so that I understand it.
Came from the state.
Came from the state.
The legislature increased the amount
Okay.
for, I guess I should have let you guys explain it, but
No,
they,
good.
they increased the amount for, medical. So that's why you see, the difference, although,
There was there was
Brian's not here.
$6,000 per unit
Okay.
that was additionally above the 19,000 we already got, and the expectation prior to the enhancement was half of that was for medical and the other half was discretionary.
Okay.
And so that was the money, I think we discussed at a board meeting recently about the intent of and we do have to report on it. So
Okay.
we talked in IBB that the intent of the legislation was to enhance the medical benefits and try to, decrease the amount out of pocket for people.
Okay.
And so we agreed as a team that we would use that money as the legislature intended, so it went directly to that benefit.
Okay, and I do appreciate us trying to get our benefits down to where they're more reasonable for people, to manage.
It'll make a significant impact for our staff, especially
Yeah.
those with families, children, and a spouse that they're putting on there.
Okay.
It's saving them up to $150 to $200 monthly.
Yeah. Excellent.
So that's included in their package in a sense.
Okay.
That's a part of a raise and allows those that are singularly covering themselves to get a better option of a buy-up program without any cost to them. So
Okay.
it makes us much more comparable to surrounding districts and was a huge positive for our teachers. They were excited to see that state support it, the district support it, and move
Okay.
forward with it.
Perfect.
Did you have a different question, Trustee Grissom, about the money or a thought?
No, I just, you did find out, I do have a question about what is the daily rate of pay for the, guest teachers? Cause we would change it, to 1/6 of the current daily rate.
So it's 120 this year, is the daily rate.
120 is the daily rate?
Yep, so $20 they get paid each period that they teach on their prep for a guest to fill in.
Okay, it's a long-term sub, I thought it was 120 retirees, 130 regular, 110.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
110, you're right.
Can you clarify why in the negotiated agreement, cause when I'm looking at the extracurriculars, and yeah, I'm a word person, but we have the head coach and the assistant coach, but then we start going into lesser coach, and I don't understand why, I mean, I know that, for lack of a better terminology, we often have supplemental coaches, like on the football team, because you have the head coach and then the assistant coach, and then you've got, I think, defense and offense and
Mhm.
kickers and I don't know what
Yeah.
else. But, so there's other coaches, and I get that, but I don't understand what we're trying to define by calling someone a lesser coach, within here.
Can we
There's-
bring it up, so?
Yes, which
As
one
like
is
where?
it?
I need to find it because
You're
on the
You're on the
website-
right thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you go to the,
if you click on it,
Extracurricular,
This one?
yeah,
Oh, I have to scroll down because I did that, so is it this one? Let me just open it here.
It's all within that same document.
and then scroll down.
yeah. Keep scrolling. Okay,
What
number
page is it?
3, cause this is experience step guidelines. So, we've got a coach advisor, we talk about, the head coach. The stipends are based off of head coach or assistant coach, but now we're talking about a lesser coach who becomes an advanced coach. And I don't understand what we're doing there and why that's there.
So I think instead of saying lesser, it's just supposed to say, what we could say is, if an assistant coach, JV, or JV coach who becomes a varsity level coach. It's
Okay.
just distinguishing.
So
the-
is that what we're talking about in
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
area?
those are just interchangeable there.
Okay,
But we could,
cause yeah, I know that.
Well, it's kind of a negative connotation.
I know,
It
it's
is
like-
very negative, I
When
didn't
you
like
when
look
you
at
said
it,
lesser,
no,
I was
yeah.
like, what?
Yeah, I just,
So,
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
so I should say an assistant,
I'm changing it right now.
thinking.
You're a rock star.
guess I don't need to take any notes, cause you're just Johnny on the spot.
I just want
Okay, on the hard to fill positions, I had some questions on them, so I'm just trying to get back into it. So you're stating in this agreement that the district leadership team determines what, if any, are hard to fill positions. Okay. So then,
And based on that, those two criteria there, or these criteria.
so you have 4 elements that you apply to determining if there is a hard to fill position.
One or more instances, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm a little, I don't know if confused is the right word, but on number 2, any endorsed areas in which alternate authorizations for newly hired staff are requested 2 consecutive years, we get a lot of requests for alternative authorizations. So,
They're not always in the same content area, so,
Okay.
so that's part of that. So for example, we are really struggling with SWD positions
I know
right
we
now.
are, I know.
And when you look at any of those criteria, you could plug SWD into all 4 of them.
Mhm.
And it might be that we have kind of a unique year where one year we have a couple of people who are needing to be alternate authorizations, but we're able to fill them that year, and then the next year we're kind of back to normal. So we're kind of looking at trends, and the rest of the team can speak up, but we talked about this because the intent really was to help our SWD teachers out, because they're hard to find,
Mhm.
and they are, we work them hard. And so, we were trying to find a way to provide additional dollars for them, but the conversation amongst the team was we didn't want to just identify one particular department in a negotiated agreement that really is supposed to kind of cover everybody. So we put language in, because there are years or time periods where maybe it's not SWD and we can't find science teachers.
Mhm.
So that was the intent, was to create a system, an avenue for us to be able to identify those hard to fill positions.
Okay, well, I think what I'm struggling with is, it feels like the leadership team is gonna determine what's hard to fill, then the district's gonna just pay it, and we're all gonna keep moving that. And there's no informing the board and saying, we have this hole, we need to fill it, is this the appropriate measures to take? Because we're responsible financially for this district. So
I guess for me, that was kind of just inherently, like, I know that's part of the job of the
Process.
superintendent.
Mhm.
This was just really about how we're gonna define those people.
Okay.
So, but if you wanna put language in there that says that, in consultation with the board,
Okay,
we
and I
can
don't
certainly
know
do that.
what, Bob, what's your feeling on
Well,
this?
because I was present,
Right,
you know, for
right.
the rest of the discussion, and, you know, I was comfortable with the language,
Okay,
you know, because I think we had a good understanding of what it really
Okay.
meant. As Lisa points out, appropriately, the board should be informed anytime
Right.
that moves is, you know, so I just think we need to have that understanding with the board and the superintendent.
okay.
I think the team would be fine if you wanted to change the verbiage to say that, it's fine.
Okay. Well, I do think the
know.
district leadership team needs to determine,
Right.
you know, where our holes are.
But then it's
and-
your decision, they have to come to you with
Oh.
that.
With all
Right,
hires.
I
Right.
was gonna say, but aren't
Isn't
all
that-
stipends and all hires are approved
By the board.
by the board?
Well, no.
So, okay.
Well, yeah, after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically
So
it
there's the
happens,
inherent,
and then
yeah.
it comes and says, hey, you know, unless there's some thing that, you know, really is needing to happen immediately, you know, some weird out of the thing, but no, Usually that's all done and then we just say, yep, looks good.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, and I think it would be better for the board to be more in a proactive instead of a reactive, because if we don't know we have these holes until we're flooded, that's not a good position for the district to be in.
Yeah, I guess, when I think about this, I
Okay.
was thinking, there just are a lot of things that the superintendent updates the board on that aren't written, it's not written down anywhere that you're gonna update the board on this. It's just part of the superintendent's job.
Okay.
So that's why it didn't dawn on me to write it in here, because it's
Okay.
just a natural part of that. However, if you want it in there, we certainly can put it there.
Okay.
Well, and it happens, first paragraph happens in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
So as the recruiting season kind of gears up and they see that this need is present, that's the point in time where the board needs to be informed. We're gonna be looking at hard to fill positions in X, Y, and Z.
Right,
But probably before the advertising even goes out for the positions.
right.
I would think.
But I
Yeah.
guess it wouldn't affect this, sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, well, essentially, that's what I was heading toward, is that the superintendent will bring that information to the board prior to the advertising of the positions, so we would know up front which positions we're talking about.
Right.
It wouldn't be after the fact. They wouldn't go hire somebody for a hard to fill position and come back to the board and say, oh, by the way.
Well, that shouldn't happen.
No.
And there can be times though, I think that it would happen even outside of spring, cause I keep going back to the Athol Elementary with the, SWD teacher out there that was like the middle of the year kind of thing, or what, I don't remember everything that brought that about, but that was like a year-long
And we
happening.
never did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, I haven't really been, I think, kept in the loop of how significant the SWD shortfall has been. I don't think this board has been kept up to date, because I've known about the bus people that were definitely short on that, but they're not certified staff, and I've known about the base program, after the fact, but they're not certified staff. I didn't really realize that we have a significant gap in our SWD department. So that's where I think it would behoove us to have language in there that says, this is gonna be brought to the board, these are the steps we're gonna use, we're bringing it to the board, and we're gonna go full force on making sure it happens for our district. So yeah.
So,
And I think it would be,
I think I heard Jason say that he would be agreeable to adding, perhaps at the end of the first paragraph there, hand report to the board, or something of that type.
yeah, cause it would be good to know what we're looking at, because if we're stipending, for longevity and for coming on, what's that impact to us?
Yeah.
Just to have an idea, so that we know, not saying it's a bad idea, we just need to know what it is.
Within consultation.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Fair is, I think we can anticipate the SWD is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future.
Right, it is.
And
Yeah, it's a challenging
Yeah.
position.
So could we put, so where it says each spring based on one or more of the following criteria, the district leadership team in consultation with the board will determine what, if any, positions will be deemed hard to fill.
Perfect.
Jason, do you have to bring that back to be re-voted on? Cause my understanding is any language change has to be brought back to the association.
I would think it would have to, yeah, officially.
Yeah.
Do you think there's gonna be a problem with
No.
that language if you bring back? Do you think that'll, I'm just thinking if Brooke has to do the contracts, is that can be done quickly, or?
Trying to get
That was
people
why I
to
was
come
trying
and
to
vote
avoid
is
inserting language.
Yeah.
That's my
All
only
the
fear, is
members
trying
have to
to.
vote?
Yeah.
And you have to-
Ultimately on an,
And
yeah.
technically, we need a
Contract.
quorum to show up physically, so, cause they can send proxies, but if we don't get
enough people in the room physically, it can't count. Just like any other body, Senate, you need a,
Yeah.
like you folks, you need a
Right.
quorum in the, we have to have a quorum in the room. That's like 100 teachers and.
Is there a game anytime soon?
We
There.
just missed the last sports season.
Well,
But we can figure it out. I mean, if it's important, and it's really just codifying something that's really already how things work anyways. So there won't be
Yeah.
any problem with the teachers other than the logistical idea of getting enough people to make it happen.
And
Just
I-
driving to $1,000,000 all day.
I don't, I mean, this is a contract, and you can have an addendum to the contract. And I don't know what your rules are with respect to that. So if we accept it as it is and then do an addendum for that one paragraph, I think it would be easier to have that paragraph, voted on at a convenient time
Yeah.
than to hold up everybody's job in respect to
Right.
accepting this agreement.
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
We could do a quick meeting in the beginning of next year, when everybody's already in the building.
We have to do that anyway.
Right,
so.
correct, right, so.
Can I have some understanding on what we did with the highlighted portions under the, extracurricular coach salary schedule, which I think coach should be removed because it's for all positions, but it's a personal thing. We've got, several positions highlighted, and so I'm just curious, were those increases? What did we do there?
So
Go to extracurricular.
in the extracurricular where they're highlighted, they had been categorized wrong previously,
Okay.
because they have been, those positions, they had been previously when they started getting steps for experience. And then somewhere along the line in shuffling, around, they were put under a different area in a previous year. And so it had read that they weren't getting those steps for experience. And it put them backwards at like step 1, because you have to,
It's down further.
determine the stipend based off of the step 1 of the base.
You'll
And
see
s-
the highlighted. part.
Yeah, so
Sorry.
people ended up, they were taking like a
Yeah.
major hit, so we corrected that. This was just basically a correction.
It was just placement correction, there was no change I don't believe that we did any changes
No.
in the actual percentages.
We didn't, and there's a committee that's coming together this next year to reevaluate some of those percentages.
Okay, how did we come to these percentages to begin with?
They've been a long-standing in all honesty too, and that's part of the request from both sides to say, we need to review this, we need to come together, say what does it look like comparatively across districts, what's the time allotment to each of those. Some of them, I would say like FFA came in the last year, I know Ramona was
Right.
with us on that, but beyond that, most of this has been long-standing, and someone correct me.
Long-standing, and then every so often there'll be one where there's more work added to that position, so then we bring it to the table and we discuss how much work and come up with a percentage based on what they're doing. And so it's a team decision that,
And competitions, time on competitions is also factored into it.
yeah.
Okay.
In surrounding districts, I know with the FFA, one of the big deciding factors on that is all of their requirement is actually set by FFA, like they don't get a choice. You
Right.
just do this program or you
Yeah.
don't have FFA, which is
Yeah.
a lot.
Huge.
All
That-
year, they
yeah.
don't quit, it's all year long.
And that's
Right.
why that's why we're paying, we decided to pay those this exact same as a head coach, cause it's the same thing,
Year-round.
year-round requirements and.
And then I think that ASB wasn't that last year too, where all those got combined because they were sharing
Right.
responsibilities,
Yes.
something,
And
yeah.
doing some additional things, right?
Yeah, they used to be listed all individually, but then they came, so instead of having a bunch of little stipends, they just shared the responsibilities and it became one stipend.
I got a question. Does cheerleading and dance get a 50% stipend for participating in competition season? What does that mean?
Is that an additional 50% on top of what their
Yeah,
percentage is?
So it's like their 1.5% because they go longer. Their seasons are 2.5 seasons with the competition.
Okay, so they're getting a 50% stipend of what?
Of what is on, what their stipend is. So
Okay.
like based upon, that base
Mhm.
schedule and their percentage, they get 50% of that. Cause essentially, they're year long.
Okay, so they're gonna get, for my own simplicity, they're going to get their $1,000 stipend, which I'm sure they're getting more. So the $1,000 stipend, and then if they compete, they're gonna get an extra $500 on top of that stipend.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And we had to put that language in there because some of those choose not to compete.
Right.
It's not a state thing where they have to.
Right.
Like the dance competition, you don't have to go to a state dance if you
Okay.
don't want to. And so
Okay.
we had to have some verbiage in there that if you are putting in that time and you are putting in the extra, that we'll get you the money. But
Okay. Okay.
Well, what about all the other coaches that put in there?
Well, it was also an equity thing because when you're a cheerleading coach and you go to one of those dance competitions, you don't have the opportunity to be a spring sports coach either. Because it runs, your season actually runs.
yeah, so it goes.
into another
So
sport.
yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, cheer and dance go, fall and winter, and then they're off. After the winter break in the spring, they're competing with me for gym time because that's when their competitions are always in the spring.
So they couldn't be the cheer coach and then go,
Do something
coach
else.
Coach tennis.
tennis or be a
Okay.
track coach because they don't have time to do it.
It creates a longer season than your other sports, cause they're cheering at that sports season, and then in addition to a competition season as well. So
Yeah,
that's where
They're
it's-
coaching from
yes.
August till March usually, till the end of March
We always need cheer.
really.
So there was no change, and I apologize just cause I missed a couple of meetings, there was no change with all the talk about the, what were the districts that were compared? Remember you guys came with assistant the 1-to-10 ratio and all that. Did you guys do anything with that or no? Sorry.
Nothing placed into the negotiated agreement language.
No,
No.
just the proposal on the board that's around the.
Okay, so I do have a question though, if you can help educate me on the athletics. In the agreement, it says in filling any supplemental position, the district shall use all applicable postings, hiring, interviewing, and transfer policies. Does that happen for every sport, for every coach that's hired? Or is it that if you coached, like you did baseball this year, are you reapplying next year or are you just in that position?
Just in the position.
Okay.
I have to do an evaluation process.
Mhm.
So Dr. Meyer, when she got here, she wanted to make sure, because it was kind of a yearly thing where, every year you were pretty much evaluated, but it was sit down, there's nothing really formal.
Mhm.
And so we instilled basically the same Charlotte Danielson model for the extracurricular coaches as we do teachers in a sense.
Right.
It's not as long and drawn out as the
Okay.
teachers are, but, so you do go through an evaluation and you can.
So then, unless a position opens up and somebody doesn't want to do the sport they've been married to for quite some time, nobody else can coach and receive that stipend, is that accurate?
I guess I'm a little
The job doesn't open.
No.
Yeah, it's not.
Unless
They
they're-
continue in that position.
Okay.
Unless they put on an improvement plan or they've been let go, they could get on, just like teaching staff, it could say they could maintain their job, which we've had some coaches. They can maintain their job, but they're on an improvement plan, they need to see improvement in these different areas. Or they can be terminated from the position, or they can, if they're satisfactory, proficient and above on their thing, then they stay in the position. Similar to property right, they don't have property rights, but it's similar to how we treat the renewable contract teachers. that same kind of philosophy.
And is there a spot on there that says recommended for rehire? Kind
Yes.
of like
Yep.
what we do with the teachers?
Yeah,
and that
similar to the
is-
renewing
Yeah.
contracts. And there has been some that have been on improvement plans, and there's been some that have been terminated since I've been here.
And it's the same for the assistants as well. Assistants are evaluated by the head coach, and then the head coach goes over those evaluations with the athletic director and
Okay.
and principal if needed.
If we opened up every single coach every year, that would be an HR nightmare.
And I totally respect that. However, the language in here kind of implies that you do that. That's why I'm asking, is this done? And what I hear you saying is, it's only done if there's an opening in that position because the coach just carries itself from year to year to year to year. Which would then cause me to question, you know, head coaches, do they have the ability to hire for their assistant coaching positions? And if they don't, if it's not a good connection or a good fit with the coach or with the student athletes, then what's that process like? I
Yeah,
mean-
so I just went through that. I had an opening
Okay.
and so we do it by the book. You have to have a formal committee and informal committee.
Okay.
You go through those interviews, you get together, you rate them, and you go from there. And then ultimately then, so like you mentioned that, you know, if I don't get along with an assistant
Mhm.
coach or I don't think they're performing,
Right.
then I would go to my athletic or activities director.
Right.
And
Thank
you're welcome. And just talk about that, and then we would have a meeting, and then upon that evaluation,
Mhm.
you know, we would mark it.
Okay.
Not recommended for rehire.
Right.
Or improvement.
Or put them on an improvement plan throughout the,
Okay.
you know, so if it's happening the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season and you're seeing it, then you can, just like anybody else, you can put them on an improvement plan right away and go from there.
Okay, is this, cause this isn't, that process isn't in your negotiated agreement, so is that within their contract? I mean, like, aside from, well, everybody just knows that's what we do,
Right.
where's that written down? That that's the procedures we follow?
We have an HR protocol in the admin handbook.
Okay, so it's in the
administrative
admin,
guide-
okay, so it's in the
guidance,
admin handbook, so when someone comes on and they understand going into supplemental contracts, that's the process. Okay,
It's very thorough.
okay.
Took 2 years to write it, so I hope it's good.
Well, and rightly so, and as much as sometimes, you know, I hate, you know, ultimately, you know, I'd like full autonomy, but I understand why I don't get that, you know, I mean, it has to be a team decision, right? I mean, because you don't want somebody coming in and just wreaking havoc and doing whatever they want all the time, so I understand that. But I think there's a fine line there where, you know, the head coach, it is his or her program, and they were hired in a position to, based on what the activities director wants or that school wants, and then, you know, and so then, you know, they're gonna have a little bit of say in who's there and who's not, but
Which I think they should.
Right.
I'm not saying they should
Yeah.
not at all.
yeah. But it's definitely a team decision. You know, the person I hired, you know, I met with Matt and Lisa, and we had to go through and we discussed in detail for quite some time about the candidates.
And you had student athletes who were part of the interview team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very thorough. I think it's
Okay.
very thorough.
Okay. Okay, so there is a segment, if you go to page 12, oh. What are you doing?
I'm just playing.
Okay, I get it. Where we have, and I guess I just like a little understanding, starting at senior high, there's positions, and then you've got middle level positions, and then elementary positions that are considered predetermined extra duty assignments, but they're not being paid on the steps option that you offer.
I can speak to that because I'm
Okay.
in one of those positions.
Yeah, gate.
Yeah, in the gate position. So these are positions within the district that come with an extra workload above and beyond your
Right.
regular classroom teacher ones, but they're not competition based. It's not that that workload increases every year. I don't prove that workload by having a strong success with a team or otherwise. It's just kind of a constant. I do state reports, I do the GT testing, have different kinds of paperwork and stuff that's added because of that program.
Okay.
But it's not competition based, which really pushes that success criteria as well. Like we feel like those competition bases, our athletics, our activities, we want to see student success. That's where we have that, we know experience brings that to the table.
Mhm.
If somebody else came into the gate position next year instead of me, they would be fulfilling those same duties that are above and beyond at the same level that I am. Like, because of my year's experience, it wouldn't change what they could do, necessarily. So they're just above and beyond contract hours, but they're not things that demand experience that comes along with them, in a sense. That undersells myself, but I'll undersell. Yeah, nobody can do what I do. I'll add that at the end.
That's
there.
Right. Or the way that you do
Or
it.
the way that I do it. So, what I'm saying is, let's put it up onto the other scale. No. Huh.
That's good definition.
Just to add a little bit to that, these items that in this section used to be part of the extra pay for extra duty, but it was consistently, every year we had some of the same items, and through IBB we made the decision to just make those, put them in because we have those positions each year, but it's not necessarily the same person. It's a little bit different than your activities and your athletics and some of those others. It's just at the school level, these are extra things that we just always do because we need them for kids.
Okay, so it says these positions will be paid the percentage of the extracurricular scale without the option of steps for years, and it's showing the percentage, but what are they paid on the scale?
And it's step one, it's $30,000.
So it's all based off of step one,
Yeah.
every single one of those positions.
Would you like that on there? Is that?
I would say for future, when we're gonna do that, for clarity, be very clear.
Put step
Say,
one.
Yeah, you're on step one and you're not moving.
Okay.
I'm not gonna ask that we could do another agenda. But yeah, for clarity, because I couldn't figure out where we're at on the scale, so.
What page are we on, Rosanna?
12.
Thank you.
It does say without steps, but it should just say like year one or whatever year one base is.
Okay.
Yeah, it used to be we would, the LEA president and the superintendent would sit down every fall in September and we'd have 50 jobs or more to look at, and Bob would say, okay, here's this one, prom advisor, what do you think we should give them and how much, and and so it'd basically be our decision and everything, and then we started seeing, well, these are all repetitive type stuff, and so for budgeting purposes, it's nice to know, okay, this is the set amount we can count on every single year. Saves us the time, and we just let the schools know these are the continual jobs.
Right.
And then, you know, in the fall when those extra duties come in, because there will be 3 or 4, you know, maybe, that we have to still look at because somebody's doing extra in a building, and then, but it's just cut down the time and save for budgeting as well.
Okay. Could you explain a little bit on the new or additional assignment programs? We've got $7.50 a student, $5.50 a student, and then $12 a student at various, whether it's elementary, mid, high, or Mountain View. What I don't understand is that, so the person's being paid by the number of students in that, whatever that additional assignment or program is? Okay.
That's kind of the funding formula, so each building has, these are the dollars that Jason was just talking about for extra
Okay.
pay for extra duty. So in the budget, Brian allocates, for each elementary school, they get $7.50 per the number of students they have in that building.
Okay.
And then the principal has that small amount of money, so if a teacher comes and says at Twin Lakes Elementary, I would love to put raised beds in and do a garden thing with the kids after school, the principal could use that fund to pay a stipend for that work, for something that's kind of new and creative and innovative, that's
Okay.
not in those, already identified in those other areas. So
Okay.
that's just the formula for how we give the money to the school.
Okay.
So it's like a discretionary fund, if you will, for.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
for any extra duty above and beyond.
For a creative not already set. I sat on the committee at Lakeland High School. I believe our number this year. So Trent Derrick just simply brings in some staff so that it's not just his decision, it's a group decision, and staff applies for it. And Frank Vieira, one of our counselors, just made that a game program for those kids, and it's way more than this, but I'll just use a reference we all understand, Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, but kids with all these different kinds of games that they love to play, and they're the kids that don't fit in a lot of other places. And a stipend, I think, of maybe $900 was given to Frank, and twice a week for an hour and a half, those kids pack our library, and they're the kind of kids that don't have a lot of other places to belong. It's been super successful, and it gives Mr. Derrick an opportunity to give about, I would say, a thank you amount of money to a staff member who's willing to do that, to create a space for those kids.
Right,
And
right.
it's that kind of stuff that,
Okay.
and how much is based on how many kids in the building. Smaller building wouldn't have as many dollars as, say, at Lakeland High School. So, and that's as Lisa said, that's the funding formula that generates, and again, I think we ended up with about 4,700 based on that formula and the number of kids we have.
Okay, so the money's given to the or to the school, and then if something comes along like that, then it's supposed to be confirmed with the board that we're okay with the school doing that, and then the school pays for it out of their budget. Is
I
that
think the
correct?
verbiage says LEA president and superintendent will decide on that, but.
It says the list will be submitted to the board of trustees for approval and paid out from the building
Yeah.
funds.
Oh, yeah, LEA leadership team and. the
Yeah,
rest of it.
yeah, no,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
Put that on my list of things to remember to do.
Thank you.
And then just, for clarity's sake, there's not one time during the year where we would say, here's the list for this year, because we might have a few in the fall that come up, and then somebody has a great idea in January when they come back and they start something for second semester, so it would be as they come up that
Right.
they would be brought.
But the full budgets show up on the full budgets for those all show up in the district budget at the beginning, right? So the dollars are known.
Right.
So there's no additional generation of revenue, they are on the
Well-
district budget.
Well, the board doesn't oversee the school's budgets. I mean, the school
Right.
does that.
Yeah.
So you guys already have the money. We just
Right.
need to make sure that whatever it is that's gonna be created is in line with our policies and all
Gotcha.
that sort of stuff. I'm a little concerned with the class sizes for elementary teachers, for the mere fact that it's not in alignment with our policy. Was that even looked at when you guys did the negotiated agreement?
No, I don't believe it was on our list to talk about. Are you talking the overages or?
Yeah, item E, class size for elementary teachers.
Yeah, it wasn't on our list to discuss this year.
Okay, cause the policy got changed and these numbers aren't in alignment.
What are the new numbers? Do you
Let me pull up the policy. They're not too far off, but,
Are they increased or decreased?
decreased. You say that.
Yeah, I know,
So,
but
so
that's-
these numbers are
Mhm.
not necessarily, I guess, just a little bit of clarification. These numbers are not necessarily saying that, like that's our target number 23.
Mhm.
What we're saying is, we recognize that we have a policy in place that says these are the target numbers and we'd like to be here, but we don't sometimes have the space to be there,
Mhm.
or the ability to hire a teacher to be there. And so when we get to that number, that triggers a stipend for teachers to get paid because they have more kids than what we're saying we want there.
Mhm.
So I don't know that the numbers have to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Well, according to our policy, kindergarten and grade 1 are considered overcrowded when they reach 24. We've got 23.
Oh,
Grades 2 and 3 are considered overcrowded at 24, and you have 26. Grades 4 through 6 are considered overcrowded at 30, and you've got 28 and then 30. So, like I said,
they're not, it's the numbers
it's not
aren't the
that
same.
far off, but I'm more concerned that nobody even looked at the policy.
Oh,
And
and
last year
no,
was a-
no, we didn't.
Okay.
We did last year.
Yeah.
Last year when we went through IVB, we looked at it and.
Well, the
Not
policy
sure.
had gotten changed last year, before the negotiated had already concluded. However, we had agreed that next year, because,
We forgot.
yeah,
So would you like that added to the addendum, so we are in line,
Well, I think
mean,
the
we're
board
doing an addendum,
needs to
or?
talk about that. The fact that these numbers aren't in alignment
And
with
they
our
weren't,
policy.
yeah, well, and they weren't just randomly chose numbers,
No.
then we were trying to be in alignment with the HDAPA rule. And what the state has recognized and state board has recognized that throughout the state, there's, and now we have even more students coming to the district.
Dr. Meyer, do you remember, I don't remember I'd have to look in my notes, but where did those numbers, off the top of our head,
Those were the exemplar numbers.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it
what,
was-
yeah.
Yeah, it's
But-
the school of merit numbers, items
Yeah,
that we
that's,
had.
I'm like, even addendum, I'm concerned, or not concerned, but I think there has to be, like we said, it wasn't brought from a board standpoint, it wasn't brought from a, IEA standpoint this year. I would have more concern going forward to teachers and saying, can we do an addendum going up to like 24 in K1? And them going, wait, like, I think about their reaction to this and going, hold on, they're gonna go, wait, we have such a positive, and then they're gonna go, okay, which it's one more, it's not that far off.
Correct.
But we know that people have those reactions to little things.
I think the most ethical thing to do, cause this is just how we pay them out for overage. The board policy is more like, this is what we'd like to have. I guess my suggestion is we put it, Brooke starts the list right now already for next year's discussion topics. Put that on next year's discussion topics, so that it's on there.
Yeah.
And leave the negotiated agreement, cause that, even though it sounds like it's gonna be good, it raises consternation with other grade level teachers. And it causes, we have to do the interest and do the whole.
I'm really surprised
brainstorming.
that they included 4th with 5 and 6 in there because it just seems,
Two different animals.
yeah, those,
But it's two
Yeah.
different animals.
and that's 4th grade that's such a big jump.
And
you know.
Right,
sixth
so
grade
they've
is
got
now
kindergarten,
middle
first grade
school.
at 24.
I know.
Elementary.
It's
Okay. Seems
very interesting.
higher to me, I don't know why we.
Well, the class size for kindergarten should be 20. 1, 2, and 3 is 20. 4, 5, and 6 is 26. And then junior high is 160 and high school is 160 per teacher.
So that's what it should be, and then they give the overcrowded numbers.
That's not how they fund us though, that's the difference, is
Yeah.
that this is what they're saying they want for class sizes,
Yeah,
but that's not how we get
exactly.
funded, so.
Right.
It really affects the taxpayers, so
Yeah.
it's a bigger discussion in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a legitimate topic for discussion, but I think next year is the appropriate time.
I agree with that.
Okay.
We have it on the list.
Okay, perfect. Put it on the list. Um,
24 kindergartners. I'm so
Is it
glad
are you breaking out pies?
Yeah.
Just the image of it.
That's a lot of hugs and a lot of slobber.
12
Lots of
snot.
Yeah.
Especially this time of year,
It's just all
spring
of
and the
them.
pollen and stuff. I just
Know what, know what,
Yeah.
know what, know what, know what?
No, it's why.
Recess time, you spend an hour getting ready in the winter just to go to a 15-minute recess, and you come back and spend another hour getting out of your clothes.
Right,
Yep.
and mopping up the snow.
Yeah.
And the one that had the white snowsuit that's still lost on the playground, and you're like, darn it, can't find it. But I got
This
plenty of
sounds like
stuff.
This story's happened before, hasn't it?
Get the Sharpies out.
I've been told, because in Alaska you go trick or treating and you have to take your snowsuit off at every single house. So one year my mom did give me a white snowsuit and told me I was a marshmallow. And I stood at the door every time and they're like, show us your costume. I'm like, oh, marshmallow. Scarred me for life.
That's what's wrong.
That's what's wrong.
You can swap these stories with my wife.
We both grew up. Oh,
You're
yeah.
Alaska.
Oh, I know. We went to college together.
Yeah.
Shannon and I did. Oh, yeah. I know everybody. I know we found each other at U of I. So both in Alaska.
You're Anchorage.
Oh, yeah. My sister's a bush pilot all over Alaska.
Yeah.
Two things on
Nice.
the list.
I have to tell that one to my son.
Yeah.
9.
It's living for fun.
I was given a PDF.
Huh?
I made comments. I didn't save it. It's just.
It's all gone now.
It's all
Yeah.
gone.
You're fine.
That's right.
Hopefully it's only 30 pages, not 100.
Technology's
Mine
great.
was 25.
Till
So.
it isn't.
I was just guessing.
Even better.
Oh, okay.
I do have one question, just because it wasn't talked about last year or this year. But this dual credit stipend where it says the instructor receives 77% of the revenue generated, what revenue is that? And it says $3 per student when they're, I don't understand how that
So,
works.
we run our dual credit, courses either through NIC or through NNU. And, both of those institutions, send money to the district in support of the courses, because we're using our teachers to teach their course, basically.
Oh,
So,
gotcha. Okay.
so we just recently got our check from NIC, and it will say, you know, this teacher, had this many students, it was this many credits, cause it's $20 per credit, that taught, and then that generates a dollar amount. And so I just plug the dollar amount into a spreadsheet, and there's a formula and figures what 77% of that is, and then the benefits part, the mandatory benefits, and then, so twice a year they get a check, for, doing that work, for our kids. And then the counselors, there's a lot of work on the counselors' end to get kids registered for courses, and then they go in and they monitor, that kids are actually being successful. So they get $3 per student per course that they register kids for, as part of the admin, the cost of administrating the program, I guess. And that we wrote it that way because initially they were just, it was kind of a flow through, and they were getting whatever money they generated. but we had some of those administrative costs, and it was costing the district money. So through IBB, we had a conversation, just that it has to be budget neutral, and so that formula was what the teachers came up with to meet that interest. And it's worked beautifully ever since.
How often are teachers required to leave for activities before the school day ends?
Depends on the sport.
Okay, so that's what it's referencing.
Yeah, if Jason's got a baseball game in Lewiston that starts at 3, they might have to leave the school at 1 and school gets out at 2, so.
Okay. And is that predominantly what occurs, or are there other?
Could be activities also if they're going to some sort of a competition.
Okay.
If Mark Cecilia is taking his kids down to NIC for a
Right.
band thing.
Okay.
Metal shop goes to state competitions and.
Yeah, and then,
they leave as well.
yeah, we have debate.
Debate team goes.
Okay. Okay. So it's activities based on the functions of what people are participating in then?
Yes.
Okay, okay. All right, well, that was pretty much my questions, I think. There were a lot more, but it's okay. Does anybody else have any other questions with regard to the agreement or the package? Because we did receive the IBB package. Okay, well, within the package, because I know Trustee Grissom asked about addressing the additional coaches, but in the package, we have an additional coaches and hard to fill amount with it. So how many additional coaches are we looking to hire, and how many hard to fill positions are there?
Well, we identified, as the crux of the conversation for hard to fill was really how do we get, yeah, so that number is based on 26, 28 SLPs, and SWD case managers.
Okay.
The coaching increase was only like
It was
$34,000 at the most. And that's with every single coach position that would have been available
Yeah.
is hired.
Yeah, it's a possible 7 coaches, and talking with the ADs, it's more like 3 or 4.
Okay.
But the total, if you went to 7, would be an extra $34,000 with benefits.
So through the team discussion, it was that it's not a negotiated agreement kind of a concept, because it puts it at that 1 to 10 level. The recommendation, kind of like our hiring process is in the admin handbook, it would be for equity, those are the recommendations to keep it competitive with surrounding districts, and to meet those sort of the different ratios that they came up with. It would require at max another 7 coaches, assistant coaching positions, but coaches can even say we don't feel like that's a need right now. So max it would cost out of the full package would be that $34,000. So that recommendation would go in to kind of an admin handbook or the superintendent handbook, so that whoever is in charge always knows how are we deciding when we add a coach, when we don't add a coach, how we keep a coach, because that's kind of been fluid for different programs.
Okay.
And so that's where the conversation started, was different sports going, well, why does one go up and one doesn't? Where are those safe? And really looking at student safety and meeting the requirements from ISHA. I'm speaking a lot. I have a hard time sitting quiet, so I jump right in.
I appreciate it.
That's sort of where all those interests came from, but it didn't feel like that recommendation felt like where it should live is within the negotiated agreement.
Okay.
But those standards would be given, so we have an equitable standard going forward, and to meet those, the max it'll cost is about $34,000.
Okay.
Did I sum that up?
Yeah.
Beautifully.
Thank you.
Yep.
Dude, I should be getting treats for as long as I can sit here quietly. It's impressive for me.
We'll run that, get some.
Something.
Dr. Myers got donuts in her office.
A whole dozen, yeah, I know they're in there. She keeps them under her desk and tells everybody she's like.
Yeah,
Really, she had her
she's a closet
It's your
donut
dirty
eater.
little secret.
Yeah, it is. Hey, look at this.
I'm thinking about
But I
doing
don't
something with
remember
donuts for
exactly.
joking at the
It was
end of the year thing, but I can't, I gotta figure out what it's gonna be.
Just show up in like a donut costume.
Costume, that would be.
Every-
Send the marshmallow cake.
Every table
Little
empties
donut
donut boxes. Everybody thinks they're
I'm
gonna
going
get a
to,
donut.
at the retirement banquet, when you speak, I'll stand behind you and eat donuts the whole time.
Mine was 27, Michelle.
27.
Okay, so there's 115,000,
Whole wheat bagels in them.
right?
Where are you?
Third
Right
line
there,
down.
the additional coaches and
Oh.
hard to fill.
Yep.
And if you say at the max, the coaches were 34,000, that leaves 80,000 roughly, and $3,000 per SWD SLP.
2,500, and I think the SWD number was
Oh, for
20.
the sign-on bonus.
Yes, for the
Okay.
sign-on bonus.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right,
that's
it
the,
was.
yeah.
I was like,
In-
I don't think anybody's
You're
gonna
thinking
take
yearly
that
salary?
position.
Yeah, we're gonna add 21 SWD. See, we're working them hard. They're earning that bonus. Wonder why they always have such a problem, I don't get it.
Why can't we retain anything?
Yeah.
Just don't understand.
It's really hard to fill.
Yeah, really hard to fill. Ultra hard to fill positions, that's what we're gonna rename it to.
Yeah.
34,000 is the wage for the additional coach. The balance is the stipendage for the hard to fill position.
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Makes me feel a little better.
Okay, I was thinking,
All right.
thank goodness,
Yeah.
did we calculate that right?
Yeah.
What are 2 drop days from the enrollment?
Daily rate of pay. Remember last year, this fall, we had done 4 drop days.
Nope, but I'll take your word.
We ran it through the board, it was with
Oh, I'm sure you did.
ESSER dollars, because, and the reason, just so you know the why behind this, Lisa and I felt pretty, well, and Brian was on our page too, but, well, and Brooke was on our page too, but, and I'm sure Bob and Ramona were on our page. We felt, we were really nervous about the enrollment being carried, because they're hearing that the enrollment is for sure gonna be in place, and I'm hearing, and Brian's hearing from our people, that it's not a done deal, and I'm very nervous, hearing directly from the governor, I'm very nervous that the enrollment's not gonna be put into law, and it's gonna be this long, drawn-out working group again, and the legislators are gonna have their little matches again.
Mhm.
So we did some win-win interest-based bargaining and did some compromising to get that, instead of putting a more percentage on to the package.
Salary schedule.
That's kind of like
Not built into the salary
Yeah.
schedule going forward.
so it's a one-time money
One-time
because of
thing.
the enrollment.
Well, you're not sustaining it every year.
What is a drop day?
Daily rate
It's an
of
acronym.
pay.
Thank you. Got it.
You
It's an
said it
acronym.
really fast, I caught it when you said it, but you said it really fast,
Yeah.
so I wondered if
I didn't.
everybody else caught it.
I
Sorry.
didn't catch it. So
I
thank
thought she'd already
Money lane.
knew that anyway, so that was my mistake. Like, some people call it a per diem day.
Objection.
I'm not sure why I call it a drop day, but that's just what I
Because you have an
Yeah,
Here's
acronym
that
page
where
that's
that
like
came
6
from.
pages long. And
Well, that's how it's paid out, I mean, daily rate.
guys watch
Okay, we're
14
tired
to
from
be
last
honest.
year,
It's
or last
Last
night.
night.
Yeah, last year.
It felt like last year. Waking up this morning, I was like, wow.
This morning, it was like a couple hours after I left here, 3.
You pulled a Rob.
Yeah,
Yeah, jeez.
we get time comes early sometimes.
Okay.
So the compromise was the daily rate of pay days versus more percentage of the increase to the overall salary.
Okay.
That was the compromise.
Okay, that makes
Because
sense.
that's one-time money, and then if it does go into law, then they could certainly, the group could certainly then add it into the matrix the next year, it just would felt,
Oh,
Lisa
yeah.
and I felt better
Oh,
about
yeah.
it. Lisa
Put it
and
on
I-
the list.
Put it on the list.
Well,
That superintendent won't be here.
so I can say whatever and nobody has to listen to me. But Lisa and I did feel better about that versus.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Jason's all about that extra money.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
about the
it's kind of
things.
his job.
But I do understand, cause you know, with this governor, I mean, the way he kinda
Yeah.
changed his tune on, you
At the
know, on the
last
last second of the last day, you know, in the package, you know, so I don't know. All of our people are saying no possible way they can get away from enrollment, but
Yeah, is that after the primary or before?
That was
it
before.
was right, yeah, it was before,
Yeah.
so, and that's part of the reason, you know, so.
I hope you guys are right. Seriously, that would make such a huge difference for the.
I think even right versus, it's nice to have a collective group that we're gonna keep pushing that from our side. We know it's important from a superintendency side. We know it's important for school boards, like you guys have seen the funding difference in that, so we just all sides work together to keep telling them that's important. We have to continue this.
Well,
That's
and
where
even
my
if they
confidence
don't,
comes.
if they go back to, you know, ADA, then there's gonna be so many districts in the hole that they're gonna have to come up with extra money anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
they're
a
gonna,
mess if that happens.
so,
Well, and just to brag about our interest-based bargaining, we are meeting with the governor's people, the superintendent group, on interest-based decision-making. So it's not bargaining, but we've done a survey, it's going out to all districts. There is some steps that are starting to get that work, so I'm really praying that this does happen, cause it'll be a huge difference. You know, remember it was like $3 million for this
Yeah.
district. It's a big deal.
It is.
3.1, but who's counting?
and if it does go to ADA, we're the worst
77
district.
cents.
I'm like, sweating.
We would take the biggest hit besides what, Orfino?
Orfino, and then they fixed Orfino because the state hospital's there.
Oh, that's right.
So they fixed it, so Lakeland was the #1 loser of money in all 115 districts and charter.
Did that happen once before to Lakeland when they did they did something,
When they were changing.
rate of pay? Yeah, whatever it was, I remember,
Yep.
it was huge.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing.
Back in the day.
Does anybody have any more questions or conversations to have on the package or the negotiated agreement? Okay.
I do not.
I asked my one question.
I appreciate that.
Well, a lot of them.
Is that your drop the mic moment?
No, they just called me. I
Oh,
only
you
get
only
one.
get one.
No, we
For the month. For the
This
month.
kid, this kid.
I would be the last person to tell somebody they had no voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Board Chair Thompson, if you find your list of comments or questions that you have, I'd be happy to get together with you later this
Okay.
summer or the fall or whatever, and we can, cause I'd like to go through those too, that'd save some
Okay.
time, then we can put them on our list as well,
okay, that'd be great.
yeah.
Alrighty, so at this time then, I will entertain a motion regarding the interest-based bargaining negotiated agreement and proposed package.
I would move the board ratify the negotiated agreement as presented today.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
That gave us power.
Alright,
I already have contracts going.
Yes.
I do wanna thank anyone, since this is my last year with the group, I do wanna thank everyone. Jason and I started this, we did training the very first fall, and nobody's the same on the board, but nobody's the same on, well, Laura's on the team, but,
Yeah, team's different.
I do wanna thank everyone. It's a longer process and it takes time, and everyone stayed late, and it's just been a really, it's been a labor of love. And I just wanna thank people, cause it really is the good work that we're doing, and I just feel really happy that everyone was involved and we've all just worked so cohesively. It was great to have 2 board members this year that came. I just think it's a very peaceful process, which isn't this way, and Coeur d'Alene hasn't even started their negotiations yet. So I'm just really want you to know how special it is in this district. If you aren't looking around other districts, it's a really special thing. So thank you to everyone on record, to the entire district, for everybody and your membership and everybody for pitching in. So thank you.
We do have one more item of business. If you all want to leave, you're free to
Well,
go, but you don't.
normally
have to
I would
go.
stay, but we have a IEA meeting across in Hayden,
Something I run the
so
next
Laura
day.
have to jump to that.
Not worried.
But thank you.
Well, I'm
Thank
glad
you.
we ended our meeting in time for you to get to your important meeting.
Yeah. Hey, I would have stayed as long as it took, let me tell you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you for coming.
See ya.
Find pictures of the white snowsuit I'll share.
Marshall, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
Is that anybody's backpack that's still in here?
That's mine.
Okay, just making sure.
Bye. Thanks, you
Good
guys.
night. Okay, next item is approval of job descriptions.
No, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I shouldn't have interrupted, but you have D2 there. It's kind of important.
Oh. No, it's not.
I'm pins and needles.
Well, we are moving on to the job descriptions. Okay, so we actually have an item before the job descriptions. It would be the issuance of certified contracts. The request is for them to be issued on June 3rd with a return date of June 13th. Is that good enough for you? I mean,
Yep.
we could.
It is, and I
Do
apologize, it was
June
my past clerk that just came in, I'm
It's
sorry.
all good. No, thank you for
Yes.
pointing that out, because I'm like, oh, job descriptions. Even though it's very bold and it's right above there, job
She
descriptions.
will be working 7 days a week in the back cave.
I've already got a good handle, I was being positive and praying, so
Good job.
I'm gonna get going.
Good.
Yeah.
I hear Becky has a cot in her office if you
If you need to sleep.
If you need a nap
I
at any
have a
point.
home office, which I will be finding.
She has a back cave.
Very good.
Okay, so you don't want June 1 through June 10, you're good with the 13th, the 3rd through the 13th?
Yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, because I mean, you've gotta do this, we have a holiday weekend, I just wanna make sure we're not pushing it out too far that you're uncomfortable with,
No,
or.
I think those are good dates, kind of
Okay.
what we went along with last year. so.
Perfect, okay. Any conversations to be had on that? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion regarding the issuance of certified contracts.
I move that we approve the issuance of certified contracts to be issued June 3rd with a return date of June 13, 2022.
Oh, second. Let Dave second it.
I second
He
it.
never seconds anything.
I try, you guys are
I
quick.
know. Sometimes I just
I'm
wait.
thinking
I
about
wait.
it.
I wait.
I'm thinking about
We
it.
need buzzers,
Reading.
so everyone can just buzz in. Alright,
Quick
hearing a
ones.
motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Now I'd like to move on to the approval of the job descriptions. We have 3 positions. I've learned that if you download the things, it pops up a lot bigger. So we have occupational therapist, psych assistant, is that psychiatrist or psychologist?
Psychologist.
Okay. And technology integration specialist.
And these are existing ones we're just approved.
These are new, brand new.
These are new
ones.
job
Okay.
descriptions.
But in approving the job description, we're also approving for the positions to be opened. I don't know what we're doing here. Are we just approving a description, or are we approving
Well,
job
we're- yeah,
openings too? Okay.
We're bringing the job descriptions because we have a need for these 3 positions, and they are in Ryan's budget.
Oh, okay, so they've already been built into the new, okay.
And
He
actually,
knew we
His
were bringing-
budget proposal.
Yes, he knew we were bringing these.
the occupational therapist, if, we have, this is so we don't have to contract, with an agency, which would cost quite a bit more.
So we are currently contracting with Kootenai Health for that position, for I think she said 2 or 3 days a week, and that we're paying half again as much as we would pay for a 5-day full-time person on our salary schedule. And we have a need for the 5 days, so we would like, we've never employed our own, or at least not to my knowledge, maybe back in the day.
No, I don't think so, not that
Yeah.
I recall, but
So
what's the availability out there for recruiting?
we actually, there is somebody who currently works through Kootenai Health who would prefer to be in a school district, who's interested in our position, so there is somebody out there, so.
And these are full-time benefited positions, okay.
Is it, and it's just 9 months, or is it the
they'd be
school
on a
year, or is it gonna be
teachers
Teachers.
contract,
Okay.
so 190 day
190,
yeah.
contract. The special education program psychologist assistant, that's our SWD director trying to get a little bit creative to provide some support, because we have so many 3-year evals, initial evals, and just the going to the meetings for the referrals, that our school psychs are struggling to get their reports done, and we have a mandatory amount of time that they have to be done in. And so the hiring of this person in this position would be a certified person with a background in SWB who understands IEPs and all of that, would be able to help with that paperwork so that our school psychs could get the work done that they need to get done for qualifying kids.
That's the teacher's contract also?
Yep. We have, the reason for this is we actually had a position open for a school psych, and there are none. So this was her kind of get out of the box a little bit, creative way to try to free them up to do the work that only they can do.
And we have one retiring this year, psych,
Yes, yes,
IG.
yes.
Tell her she can't retire.
She's going to Spokane.
Well, she has a pretty sweet deal, cause I don't wanna talk about it, but yeah.
Well, I hired her, and she can't go until I say so.
You hired everybody, Bob.
Yeah.
Mom's the fat lady now. Staying home till the fat lady sings. Mom hasn't sung, so.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay. No names. No names. So, what I guess questioning last night in the budget workshop in reviewing the upcoming matrices that are coming, these positions were not on there. So I don't know what columns they sit in.
They'll be on the teacher salary
All
schedule.
3.
So that salary schedule, remember, is based on the number of years of experience that they have in their field, and then how many credits they have beyond their certification. So all 3 of these are certified positions, and they'll go on the certified teacher salary schedule. They might be a pupil personnel service certificate, but those are also on the certified salary schedule. So our nurses, our counselors, they don't have a teaching certificate, they have a pupil personnel services certificate. And the occupational therapist will have a pupil personnel services certificate, so they all land on the teacher salary schedule.
It doesn't say that they would have that qualification. It says that they will have minimum experience as determined by the board, and be a certified occupational therapist. Broad knowledge of child growth and development, psychology of exceptional children, and the principles of counseling individuals, demonstrated ability to effectively work with students, parents, and community groups, strong leadership skills, and maintain confidentiality.
Which one was that you were reading?
She's
Occupational therapist.
Oh, okay.
So we can add the PPS certificate in there, because that's how they get on the salary schedule.
Because it does say assisting student and families under their major duties and responsibilities provide pupil services and special education, but we're not making that a qualification for this
We
position.
can add that.
Okay. So the occupational therapist reports to the assistant superintendent or superintendent?
No, that would, it would be the SWD director.
Okay, so that needs to be corrected.
Are you making those changes?
I'm making notes, because I think Kelsey's didn't have that, so.
And then it does state under terms of employment contract as determined by board. I don't think any of our job descriptions state that.
Yeah, that's that she took an ISBA model, so.
Oh, okay,
We'll
okay.
go ahead and, put our terms of, and conditions regarding certified staff that we have down in that spot.
Okay. The technology integration specialist, it also says on the terms of employment, salary, and work here to be established by the board.
That's because it's, the reason they say this from ISB is because that is
How it's
typically
supposed
the
to be.
board's doing.
I thought that was changed. Let's
No.
see, okay.
Just that there's already, I guess, established
Protocols.
yeah.
So the tech,
Oh, go ahead, no, go ahead.
the technology integration specialist, that's a new job description, new position? And we don't currently have that kind of position in the district.
We have one that's similar, but not exactly this one. So we have one person who is our lead, technology integration coach. This person will work with her, but not in that leadership role. So we needed one that was kind of not the leadership part of it, so that's why we're asking for this one.
And is this, okay, this is gonna be a certified position as well,
Yes.
teacher contract.
Yep. And the intent behind this one is, as we've been talking about concerns about screen time and making sure if we're gonna have kids on computers that we're actually enhancing the learning and not just replacing the teacher or the textbook with the computer. This person is helping with that with teachers in the classrooms, finding ways to do that, and really using our technology to enhance our learning and give kids lots of opportunities to learn how to navigate technology, because there are so many fields that they can go into when they graduate in that you need technology for. So this is kind of to help with
You're
that.
talking at secondary level.
It's actually gonna be it's a K-12 position. They will spend the majority of their time in grades 4 through 12. We don't have our K-3 kids on computers very much.
Glad to hear that.
Yep, mostly for assessment.
One of their performance responsibilities is taking on the role of district testing administrator liaison for all state and benchmark assessments.
Yes, because currently the person who's doing that is our admin assistant in the technology department, and there's just a lot about on the education side that she doesn't have, and this person will be able to help us with that, a little bit better.
Okay.
So half of her time will be spent on that part of it, because there's a lot to do, and then the other half of the time will be helping our current technology integration coordinator.
Where do they fall on the salary scale? Salary, not salary.
I like salary.
It will depend on who we hire.
Yeah, it's just like a regular teacher coming in, it just depends on.
Okay, so this is still on the teacher's side.
Yep,
all three
grades.
of the positions.
Yes.
Okay. You said that, I will probably ask again, so.
That's okay.
here's a
I've
try.
got my answer ready for you.
So it sounds like though that this position, because it says by leading professional development, developing resources, offering instructional coaching, modeling, training, and other services, isn't that what Michelle Stanford does?
Because
Or
we
Dave,
have, because
or-
we're fully one-to-one, she can't get to everybody, so she
Okay.
needs some help.
Okay,
So that's the intent of this, is we don't want teachers to just, because they don't know the best way to use the resources, we don't want them to just
No.
become the textbook, right? And
Right.
We wanna be really intentional about when we use them and how we use them.
okay.
And so, this person will be able to help work with teachers, and her focus is going to be on, STEM type, activities, bringing resources to teachers to get kids engaged in some STEM learning. So I think that will just add another great facet for, our students, and another outlet. They love coding and, making robots move and,
Okay.
is there anything about that position I'm missing?
Just part of it is that initiated was the learning gaps and being able to, so that cause staff just hasn't been trained after the COVID on how to get back to fill in learning gaps, and so that's part of the role of, Michelle's really good at that, and hiring somebody to help fill in some of the cohorts. She has people from cohort 1 that are requesting to come back around to do retraining from, and that was 5 years ago. So she has people, and then she has cohort 5 that are, so to try to do all of that is impossible with our size of district, and then it's growing as well. So I think the learning gaps is important too for that, to fill those in.
I think we're asking a lot of the special education program psychologist assistant. In looking at, the qualifications, that early childhood special ed, the blended certificate. And I might be biased in this, cause that's exactly what my daughter has. But that is a 5-year degree, and the training, the teacher certification is in addition to the education, so the educational focus of the blended degree, which is 5 years, is not, I don't wanna say is not the same, but there are some things understood from only a teaching certification perspective that is not applicable to this degree. My concern in reading this is that, in reading all of them, to tell you the truth, to put them on a regular teacher's pay, and I understand they're teaching in the district, but my perspective, just a board member, is these are not teachers. These are special functioning personnel within the district that may teach also. I guess what I'm looking at is what quality of person do we want in the
Mhm.
position?
Mhm. Yeah, you make an excellent point.
You know, what,
Yeah.
I mean, cause I know what our teacher
Mhm.
scale is, and we're asking for pretty specifically qualified people to fill these positions, and I'm concerned that I mean, I could be completely
Rosanna,
wrong,
can
we have
you
to wait
pull
and
up
see
the
who
one that
applies, I
she's-
guess,
Yeah, applicant pool.
but, yeah.
The special education.
It's the one that says copy of
Oh,
your very
that's
last
what
one,
they
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, or exceptional child certificate, so they don't
Right.
have to have both.
Right,
So
right.
you could
No,
just
I
have a
understand.
standard, it has
Yeah.
WD. Okay, when you said that, I was thinking, I don't remember that we needed both, so.
Yeah, no, not both,
Okay.
but yeah. And then just reading through the whole thing, and even when you go back to although the technology piece is very, specific technology, that would be my only wonder, I don't even know if it's a concern, but I really wonder how qualified of people we're gonna get for these positions. To take on the load, cause I think these are fairly, not that everybody doesn't have a load, but I just think there's a lot of ask in these positions that, that come with them. But,
The one good thing about the technology one, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that you were gonna have it be worked through the summer, so the pay is, they get to work the whole summer, so that is a higher, like, take-home pay because they're working. Yeah, and then they get, after they work a year, they get the vacation time or whatever, however that works, I can't remember, but,
okay,
is that correct or no?
Yeah, I think that person would be working the same schedule that.
As Michelle?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which would, just for clarification, cause I know how much the board loves stipends, but that would be a stipend for the summer work.
Yeah.
Because they are on the teacher
Oh,
salary
Brooke loves
schedule.
those.
We do.
Well, it's extra days, is that considered the same?
It's a stipend for extra days, yeah.
But
I
you
guess-
can't have a stipend. You don't get a
Board,
stipend.
we can do it, we're bored.
Well,
Good
good
luck
luck getting that through.
I think you can get health insurance.
We
On the
can.
board?
Yeah,
School
we can.
boards can get health insurance.
I don't know what would qualify, given there's no wage, but we can have health insurance.
Cool.
I guess I don't understand why, if these people aren't, I mean, I don't know why we have to put them on the teacher salary scale and not on the certified admin scale. I don't know.
The classified admin scale?
No, the
the
certified ones for
certified.
Brian and Brooke.
So,
No, 'cause
the thing
that's
is,
certified admin is certified.
we
I
would.
think she meant classified.
That's what I was
Yes,
just clarifying,
If
yeah.
they're certified, and they're considered basically a teacher on assignment,
Mhm.
we're able to get reimbursement from the state on it, just like a regular teacher.
Okay, so that's why we wanna put them.
Yep, the other thing that it does provide for them is, remember last time we talked about the different categories of teachers, but when they get to that renewable category, there's a lot of due process and some kind of tenure that's associated with the teacher contract that isn't associated with anybody else's.
Okay.
So there's some protection there also for the person.
It's kinda like counselors, counselors don't teach,
Right.
but they're on a certified salary schedule.
Right.
Exactly.
And when you look at the way
Okay.
the state funds us, people with the PPS, certification
Certification, yeah.
are they fund us on the
Yes.
state teacher salary schedule, so
Okay.
we've just been mimicking that.
Okay, okay.
those were my only, input, I guess. I'm looking over all those.
On the, yeah, okay, so there are changes that need to be made to these.
Mhm.
Brooke took notes of the ones that you needed to make, so
Okay.
we could approve them with recommended notes or changes made.
when, are these positions open now, or we're going to open them up, or?
The technology integration one, was open. I don't believe the other two have asked, the SWD director to wait until the board approved them.
Did you have any other questions or concerns on that, or?
No, there's a lot of significant changes that need to be done. Is just my only concern. I would like to see consistency in our, job descriptions. And there's not consistency in these three that are brought, and what I mean by that is, some of them, and I
Text
realize,
heading.
what's that?
Text, heading, font, spacing.
Okay, but some of them have legal references. It is a pet peeve of mine, but it's just a pet peeve that wouldn't
No,
stop
I'm,
me
I'm
from
with
approving
you, I
it.
noticed
Yeah.
it right away.
But, some have legal references, some don't. Some have notes, some don't. Like on this one note under occupational licensing, all certified and non-certified employees and other individuals are required to undergo a criminal history check and submit to fingerprinting. Well, okay, that should be on all of them.
Everybody, yeah, so.
And it's not.
Yep, I think, this is the ISBA template that she used because we didn't have one of those job
Mhm.
descriptions.
Yeah.
And apparently the old ISBA template that we've used for forever didn't have that language, so we just either need to transition so that they all have that, if that's what you're looking for, or we use the format that we currently have. But we've never had these positions, so they had to go look.
I like the reference and the layout of these and everything because it is a legal binding document.
Mhm.
Like, this is what you're held to, you know?
Well, we did purchase the ISBA, model job descriptions. I think it's been now like 5 years, and I mean, I can't recall
Really?
how much it was, yeah.
Oh. I didn't know that. No, because we've had a few different job descriptions that we wanted information on, and I didn't know that we had purchased those.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're just models.
No, and I know that, which
And that's
models
usually
are
where,
great.
that's
'cause
where
you
we go
can
off of.
manipulate them to be what we need for our district.
Right.
But certain things like the legal references.
Yeah, so that's
are
why
biases.
those are in there, is they're ISBA's.
Right, which I don't mind them being in there, I think that's great, but I know uniformly, that's not it on our job descriptions, and there needs to be some consistency and
Mhm.
uniformity. So, that being said, that's just my thing. So, I mean, I guess I'll call for a motion on these job descriptions.
I'll move to approve the 3 job descriptions that were presented with the modifications and edits that have been discussed.
Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Hearing one nay, 4 ayes, motion carries. Okay. And, yay, it's like 10 after 7.
We still have 3 more hours.
Oh, you did.
We have nothing left on the agenda. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's 7:11 p.m.
I don't know what to do.